Good morning, preteens, and welcome back to another Sunday lesson with me. I'm so glad you're here. I hope y'all have had a great week back at school, back kind of in the swing of things, into your regular schedule. This week we are continuing our series of A New Normal. Today we're talking about a story in the Old Testament. Now, some of us have heard of the prophet Elisha. We've heard of Elijah, maybe, with a J. There's also a prophet Elisha, and he is part of this story, but we're really going to focus on one specific character of this story, and it's a girl. It's a kid just like y'all, maybe even younger than y'all, and we're going to see how she kind of breaks this barrier, maybe creates a space of a new normal by speaking out. And so we are in the book of 2 Kings. That's in the Old Testament, just a few books down. There's a 1 Kings and a 2 Kings, and we're in 2 Kings chapter 5. And I'm just going to read a few of the verses, starting at verse 1 of chapter 5. It says, "Now Naaman was a commander of the army of the king of Aram. He was a great man in the sight of his master and highly regarded, because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram. He was a valiant soldier, but he had leprosy. Now bands of raiders from Aram had gone out and had taken captive of a young girl from Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, 'If only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of leprosy.' Naaman went to his master and told him what the girl from Israel had said. 'By all means go,' the king of Aram replied. 'I will send a letter to the king of Israel.' So Naaman left, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of clothing." Now I'm going to be skipping down to verse 9. It says, "So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and stopped at the door of Elisha's house. Elisha sent a messenger to say to him, 'Go wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh will be restored and you will be cleansed.' But Naaman went away angry and said, 'I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, wave his hand over the spot and cure me of my leprosy.'" I'm going to go to verse 13. Naaman's servant went to him and said, "My father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then when he tells you, 'Wash and be cleansed'?" So he went down and dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times, as the man of God had told him, and his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. What a really interesting story. Some of us may have heard about the man who was cleansed because he dipped himself 7 times in the river, and this is what that story is from. And I really want to focus on this young girl. Kids in those days really were being raised to work. Even if they weren't slaves like this girl was, kids and families were just kind of there to help the family. They weren't really seen as people most of the time. They were seen as workers, and especially slave children who were born into slavery or bought. And this little girl kind of speaks up and says, I know of this prophet in this town, and he would probably cure you. And so they take her up on it, and he's cured. This is a new normal for those people. Kids we don't really see a lot of kids in stories. We see some in very few here and there stories. Jesus is really a big representation of him giving a lot of value to children and saying, they're people too. Like, they don't deserve to be dismissed or belittled or think of as being less because they're young. And that's something that's very valuable and something that still kind of happens sometimes today. I wonder if y'all have ever had an experience where people may think you can't do something because you're young, or you may not be strong enough because you're a kid, or anything like that, or maybe treat you like a baby sometimes, or you may feel that way, and it can be really frustrating. But maybe we can sort of make it a new normal to speak up a little bit, say your thoughts and share what you think and your ideas, because just being with y'all, I know y'all have awesome ideas and y'all are so creative, and I learn from y'all all the time. And kids are great that way. Just because you may be younger does not mean anything less of your ideas or your creativity or your intelligence, anything like that. You see a whole different perspective, and you see things so much simpler sometimes than adults do. And this child had such a easy answer, you know? And she was like, you know, if he just went and saw this guy that I've heard of or seen, I think he would be healed. And they probably wouldn't have received that kind of response or that suggestion from an adult. We don't know if adults knew Elisha in that town, you know, and because of wherever she was from, she knew of him. And so it's kind of creating this new idea of looking at y'all sometimes for the answer. And that's not normal for us sometimes, you know. It's not normal sometimes to ask a kid what they think, or ask a kid what they think the right thing to do is. And in a scenario where it's not a teaching lesson, you know what I mean? And why not that be the new normal? So sometimes, you know, I challenge you, if it feels right, to express your opinions and express what you think, because your thoughts count too. And sometimes they're the exact thing we need, like in this story. So for this week, think about ways that you can kind of step out of maybe that weird box that we have kind of put on kids sometimes, and think about where you can maybe add a little bit more of your pizzazz on things. And maybe you have an experience like that in your head, and maybe you can think back to a time and think about maybe what you could do instead, and maybe what you can do to kind of put yourself out there a little bit more. If that's something you may have wanted to do in that experience. So that's kind of my challenge for y'all this week, is to kind of create that new normal, and to do that for your friends, to do that for your siblings as well, to kind of give them that open space to do that for all people. This is my final video to y'all. I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your school year. I will be seeing y'all around Lover's Lane when we are able to go back in person. And I love each and every one of you. I'm so glad you have been watching these videos with me. I will miss y'all dearly, and being in the classroom and all those fun memories that we have. But yeah, I love y'all, and I will see y'all around, and I hope y'all have a great week. Bye, y'all.